Moondrop Aria. You guys have heard all the hype surrounding this IEM, this $79 monster. How good is it really? Well, it's really good. Like it's so solid. This is probably one of the best under $100 IEMs you can get. Yeah, probably the best under $100 IEM you can get. It is ridiculous what Moondrop is doing for $79. It's so unfairly good that every IEMs that comes into my house nowadays, anything that is under $100, anything under $150, I always pitch it against the Aria first to see if it even performs on par with something like the Aria. It is truly market breaking in terms of the price point to performance that this has done. It's amazing. So is that review over? Sure, you can go out and buy it now. You need to watch the whole entire video even. It's just amazing, go and buy it. But if you want more details, I will get into all the details plus some comparison to other IEMs similar to its price range. And without further ado, let's jump into it. Welcome to the unboxing of Moondrop Aria. See there? Anime girl. Of course, Moondrop always has anime girl. Although this one's gotta be one of my favorites. In the back of the box here, you get some information on the IEM and the frequency response graph. Cool. Slide this out like so, and you'll see this really, really pretty box. Like this is one of my most favorite IEM box ever. Like it's simple and it's elegant. Open up the box and you get the IEM sitting inside there. See, that's the Aria up close. And inside here, you get the case. Now here's the inside of the case. As you can see here, you get the cables and the tips. Here are the tips up close. I think they're unbranded, but you know, who cares? They work. The cables are fabric, and for those of you who are wondering if these make noise or not when they're rubbing against your clothes or rubbing against your skin, they do not make any sound at all. So these are the nicer variant of fabric cables, and they're quite comfortable around the ears as well. They don't scratch, they're not too heavy. Quite nice. Hey friends, Tim here, welcome back to Giz Audio. And at first I'd like to apologize for the lack of RGB lighting in the background. They broke. They just flat out stopped working, so not much I can do about that. So yeah, back to the Aria. $79, this is again one of the best IEMs you can get for the price. Under $100, this is my #1 recommendation. It does everything pretty nicely, at least average on every category, whether that being the bass, the mid-range, the treble, the overall tuning, the balance itself, and also the technicalities, the details. Everything on this is average and plus. There's nothing that I can pick out that is outright bad about this IEM or outright negative about this IEM, making it just one of the most well-rounded IEM that you can grab, again, for under $100 and even under $150 if the Starfield didn't exist. And for me, honestly, I do prefer this over Starfield. We'll talk about that later. But yes, let's start off with the bass. The bass here focus a lot more on the mid bass, so you get more of that thumpy, that slam type of feeling. Now, the bass does hit quite hard on this. Now, it's not the hardest or not the most distinctive feeling bass that I've ever heard, but for the price, it is fantastic. The bass doesn't bleed into the mid-range at all, creating a very clear separation between what is bass and what is male vocals. They don't feel too close to each other, which is perfect. The bass texture on this, the detail overall bass is quite nicely for the price as well. Sub bass is present, not a lot of it though, so you will feel a little bit of rumble, not too much though. It's very much overpowered by how strong the mid bass here. Now, talking about bass power, I say it's strong, but it's not a super bassy bass head IEM by any means. It's just there, it's present, you feel it, it's good enough for majority of listeners. For bass heads, you might want to find something that's even more bassier than this, but for any regular listener, the bass on here is plenty satisfying. Moving on to the mid-range, I listen to a lot of vocals, whether that being male vocals, whether that being female vocals. So for me, the most important things are the vocals. Do they sound correct? Do they sound good? And on these, they sound great. Male vocals sound really nice. It has a little bit of meat to them, so a slight bit of warmth, if you will. So it's not completely flat like the Moondrop variation. Male vocals sound completely flat and a little bit thin. But on these, they do have a little bit of meat to them, which I like. Male vocals like Michael Bublé, you guys know I love that guy. comes across more full and more naturally like his own voice. Has a little bit of warmth in there that just makes him feel more alive, and I like that. Female vocals sound great out of these because these have a little bit more energy than your Moondrop Starfield or your Moondrop KXXS, which is why I actually do prefer this over the Moondrop because of that little bit of extra energy. It brings the female vocals to life just a bit more. Now, I'm not saying the Starfield or the KXXS doesn't have great female vocals. They do, just the Aria does it a slightly bit better than those two. In terms of the overall timbre or the decay, the weight of the notes, they have quite a decent amount of weight to them, so they don't feel heady or they don't feel like in the air so much. They feel very much centered, which is, yeah, satisfying. On to the treble. Now the treble on these, they're not going to be the most energetic treble out there. I mean, being that it is a Harmon-tuned IEMs, and most Harmon-tuned IEMs are not really treble heavy. Like, they're not really way too bright. You don't really see too many of those. And unfortunately, these are one of those IEMs that are just not super bright. So if you're into really energetic type of IEMs, or you're more of that treble head style of listener, then these will probably sound a bit dark to you. Like, if you found a Starfield dark, these will sound a bit dark to you as well. Although these do have a little bit more energy than the Starfield does, I still feel like it's not enough energy to really bring instruments like flutes or a lot of the woodwinds to life when you're listening to orchestras. I want a little bit more of that brightness, but is that a detriment to these IEMs at all? Does it take away from the overall clarity of these IEMs, being that they are a little bit more tame? I would say so, just a little bit. Not too much, at least not enough to be a detriment. These are still very well balanced sounding IEMs. They don't sound uber dark. Again, very well tuned neutral IEM with a bass boost. So the little bit of darkness in treble, not at all a detriment, just a preference. Moving on to the technicalities, the details, the imaging, the soundstage. How do these do? So in terms of overall details, these are probably one of the best you can get at the price. Yeah, the details on these are really good. They're on par with something like the Starfield. They're on par with something like a KXXS. Maybe a little bit less so than the KXXS. It's more similar to the Starfield, if anything. But yet just a small touch below the KXXS in terms of details for me. So really, really, really solid level of details for the price for sure. And again, under $100, this is the most resolving IEM you can possibly get. And that's really where the value of these Arias are at, is in the details, in the technical abilities. Because most IEMs I've listened to, even the newer ones, under $120, under $130, like the FD3, I've tried the pre-release Yuan Li as well. Those IEMs, they have good tuning, especially Yuan Li has really good tuning, but a lot of IEMs under the $120 price don't really have the best technical performance, or they're not really the most resolving IEMs. They feel hazy a lot of times. The Aria are just better in that department than a lot of IEMs that I've tried. So that's really where the value is at. Onto the soundstage, these are wider than your average IEMs out there, which is a really nice surprise considering that a lot of IEMs are kind of like an in your head kind of average feeling in a way. So to find IEMs that are wider than usual like this one, or even the FH3 is another wide IEMs, feels nice, especially a Harmon-tuned IEMs that feels wider. That's kind of rare. The only one that I know of is like the Variation or the SH. These also have that kind of wider soundstage. Now, not as wide as the Variation, but it is wider than majority of IEMs you're gonna find at this similar price. And I think you guys noticed the theme by now is that I keep harping back to the price of these IEMs. And the reason I kept doing that is because these, as a pair of IEMs, in essence, they're just really average IEMs, but they're average in the context of like $150, like $180. They're not average in terms of $79. So the value again on these are just fantastic. That's why I keep harping back to it. They're very impressive for the price that you can grab it at. On to the imaging. These are just all right. So yeah, I really don't have much to say about it. You can tell which direction the instruments are coming from, but in terms of like a pinpoint accuracy, you're not gonna get a pinpoint accuracy. Now, the IEMs that you do get a pinpoint accuracy is the Starfield. The Starfield has stellar imaging, probably one of the best imaging out there. These are a step down from the Starfield when it comes to imaging for sure. But in terms of soundstage, these are wider than the Starfield. So yes, back to the imaging. just average. All right, what's my final verdict? Well, my final verdict, I already said it at the beginning of this video, so I don't think you need to hear it again. Just go out there and buy this. These are a beginner's best friend. It's safe tuning, fun tuning, decent level of detail in Soundstage, and it's probably gonna beat a lot of the IEMs out there, especially the mainstream IEMs in the Western world and a lot of the IEMs in the Sci-Fi world as well. It's just better than a lot of IEMs out there. I don't know what else to say. At under $100, this is my default recommendation. So yes, go out there, try out the Aria, buy the Aria, especially if you're new to the IEM world and you're looking to spend $50, let's say your budget is $50, I would say save up $29 more for this because it absolutely is worth it. I mean, for your first IEM, there's just no better than Aria. Alright guys, that's it for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to hear the comparison of Aria versus a lot of Moondrop IEMs out there, I do have a video on a Moondrop buying guide. You guys go watch that one for kind of more detailed breakdown on how a lot of the Moondrop IEMs are different, which ones you should buy, at what price, stuff like that. So yeah, go ahead and watch that video. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye.